Tea is synonymous with Sri Lanka. It is the backbone of the country's economy. It employs nearly 1 million voters. But the tea growers are unhappy. They get paid very little, often less than the minimum monthly wage. And this time they have a lot of demands. They want more wages, they want better working conditions, they want better housing. All three frontrunners in this election, in the presidential election, have made lofty promises. But who will sway the tea pickers of Sri Lanka? Our next report tells you. These tiny leaves power Sri Lanka's economy. But could they also decide its elections? We're just one day away from voting, and tea pickers are angry and disappointed with the ruling elite. They plan to make their voices heard on Saturday. Sri Lanka's aromatic tea is sold worldwide as Ceylon tea, Ceylon being the country's colonial name. It is considered among the finest in the world, which is why more than 140 countries import tea from here. But can it really influence a presidential election? So how big is this industry? Well, this is a good place to talk about it. We are at the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, which is where the world's biggest tea auction happens. It used to be an outcry auction earlier, but after the pandemic, it has shifted online. Once tea is harvested, licensed buyers, licensed bidders come into play, and they test the tea for quality and type and grade. And then these licensed buyers bid for various quantities of tea, and the highest bidder at the auction gets it. That's how a typical auction works. This is where it happens. Today this hall is empty, but on Tuesday and Wednesday every week is when the auction happens, and they sell 6.5 million kilos of tea every week, except for Christmas and New Year. This market is open throughout the year. Here in Colombo, tea has a good rep. It is, after all, Sri Lanka's biggest export. Tea brings in more than $1.3 billion in export revenue, absolute gold dust for a bankrupt country. But the world of tea production is very different from these billion-dollar auctions and cafes. It happens far away from Colombo in the Sri Lankan highlands. It's a world of persecution and hardships. This is Hutton, a tea plantation 4 hours east of Colombo. The pickers are busy at work today, their nimble hands plucking away the tiny leaves and depositing them into baskets. It's back-breaking work for little pay. A tea picker is paid for 20 days of work. In this time, they must pluck 20 kilograms of tea leaves. If they do, they get $66, which is actually below the minimum wage in Sri Lanka. There are more than 700,000 tea pickers in this country, most of them Tamils. But their issues are different from mainstream Tamils. Housing is a major one. Most tea pickers live in these tiny line houses. Big families are often cramped into single rooms. Jasmina lives in one such line house.
My husband and my son work and provide us with food. There are 10 people living in this room. I cannot work because of an illness. Therefore, I stay at home.
Tea pickers are among the lowest paid in Sri Lanka. Their conditions have been compared to modern slavery. Politicians have promised them a lot, but post-elections, that's all they remain.
I am in this area where there are over 100 families living and we have no help. Politicians come here promising this and that, but they are not helping us in any way. We don't have drinking water. There are no toilets. In one room, there are 2 or 3 families. We live with great difficulty.
This time, the tea pickers are ganging up. They plan to use their only remaining strength, that of voting numbers. These voters are demanding very basic things from their leaders: a wage hike, better housing, and land rights. Most of them support the CWC, the Ceylon Workers' Congress, a party that has historically represented Sri Lankan Tamils. The CWC, in turn, is supporting President Ranil Wickremesinghe. He has promised landholding rights for tea pickers and also helped to build better homes. Wickremesinghe also tried to hike wages for these workers by almost 70% in July this year. But the order had to be revoked. Apparently, the employers did not have the money to pay them. Some tea pickers are also moving close to Anura Kumara Disanayake. Perhaps his Marxist policies attract them. But either way, one thing is clear: Sri Lanka is taking its tea pickers for granted. Exporters and brokers are making millions from this trade, while the hard-working tea pickers live in poverty. Will they use this election to say enough is enough? And if they do, will it change anything? History has taught these pickers to not hope for much.